All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin Simmons. I'm the Director of Parent and Family Programs here at Auburn University. Thank you for joining us at Family Connection Hours, our first session of the semester. And today we're joined by Dr. Jamie Miller, who is the Director of Academic Support here at Auburn University. She is going to run through some of the resources that they provide to help your students be successful inside of the classroom, and give some guidance for all of our parents on how you can best support your students throughout the process of the spring 2026 semester. So, no more talking from me. Jamie, I will let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And I'm going to move my screen. I want to encourage y'all to send questions along the way, post things. And on this little screen of mine, I'm going to make sure I can see all of that. And then, Kevin, feel free to prompt me if you notice something is helpful or connected along the way. So, good afternoon, everyone. First, I just want to say thank you to Kevin and Parent and Family Programs for creating space for me to come and present today and share these resources with each of you. I'm looking forward to this time. I've been thinking about it a lot, curious what questions you might have about your students or your students' experiences. So, feel free throughout the presentation to throw things in the chat that feel top of mind to you, maybe even a motivation for attending today. I would really love to hear what those motivations are and make sure that I'm able to draw those connections throughout the presentation. So with that, I'll offer some introduction to our office. So like I said, I'm Jamie Miller. I work as the director of this office. We are located in Haley Center. It is still there for all of you graduates in the room, and it's looking great still. Haley Center looks great still. We're in the 2200 quadrant. And you're welcome to check out our our website while we're on the webinar today. It's a brand new website. We launched it in November. And so looking forward to seeing ways, perhaps even ideas you have on how we can build better navigation for parents and families, even on our website. We're also on Facebook, we're on X, we're on Instagram. So if you haven't followed us yet, if we weren't able to convince you at orientation, today could be a great day. You could add us on those socials while we are in here today. So when we talk about academic support, we often think about a workout and thinking about scaffolding our learning as individuals, not just students. All of us are learning in our day to day. And so that requires action from us to show up, to be present, to take those first initial steps of action. At that point, there's a lot of repetition, perhaps, practice, development of those skills. We get to practice those every single day. I know I practice that every single day. And through our services, you'll see the ways that we create space for every student to practice what they're learning, especially around skill development, building that knowledge, and the repetition to support it. We expect challenge. So if we're not challenging ourselves in whatever spaces we're a part of, we may not be fostering growth. And so challenge is a part of that. And I think normalizing the frustration or the emotions that can come with challenge and rigor, especially at Auburn, we've got a academically rigorous college experience here at the university. Full engagement experiences for students where they're learning and growing, not only in the classroom, but all throughout campus. They're learning, growing through those challenging experiences. And so our office has designed experiences that foster growth by having some challenge, but we also have a lot of support. And where we know there is challenge, we know there is learning. And so that's exciting for us as a team. This idea of equipment, we can help set that infrastructure and support with your student. And we'll walk through what that looks like, particularly with academic coaching. So we'll really highlight coaching in this space. And then developing those healthy habits ongoing are really important to us, helping students identify what habits are most helpful to them, and then helping them build plans for the full semester to perform their best. So with academic coaching in particular, all of our services are free of charge for the record, but this is a personalized experience to meet one-on-one with an academic coach. Our coaches are graduate students. They've been trained and then observed for over 20 hours and then getting closer to about 35 hours once they are meeting with students. And they are experts on teaching study skills. So on campus, we have professors who are experts on content. They know how to talk about content. But skill development, teaching a skill sometimes requires different knowledge. And our coaches are truly those kind of resident experts on campus to help your student think about what skills are required for me to perform well in this course and how might I want to apply those in my habits throughout the year. What can I do to improve my skills? And so we'll look at what skills those are. But this is a space for that. And then students can schedule on Advise and Assist. If you haven't heard, Advise Assist has a name change. They're Advise and Assist now, but students are eligible to make those appointments right there on that software. We offer an intake appointment. So when we think about the program of coaching, our recommended experience can start right now for your student. They can schedule an intake appointment, which is a full hour. That's where we're going to get to know your student. We're going to talk through what their hopes and goals for the semester are, and then identify resources on campus that can help them, not just us, but some true triage. We might have a student, for example, come and talk about how they're not really sure they're in the right major. We're going to help connect them to their academic advisor. We're going to help connect them to exploratory advising. We might have a student come in that's talking a lot about anxiety and depression and feeling really anxious about school. And we're going to offer within our context, here are things we can help you with. However, let's also get you connected. You need to meet with student counseling and psychological services. Let's get you connected with a counselor there or the group counseling resources that are available. So that first meeting is a lot of triage. We're helping your student learn about all of their network of support that they have on campus. They have a lot of people here who are committed to their success. And so the opportunity to hear about those from someone like a coach who can really translate those services for them, walk through what might be most relevant based on their challenges, based on the things they're doing well and their goals. But then at that point, we really get to our bread and butter, which is coming up with 3 to 5 additional sessions to meet with your student to drill down on these skills and these habits and then increasing those, making them better. We can all get better in our note-taking skills. We can all get better in our time management. And so helping your student identify what skills do they want to work on that will help them perform their best in their classes. Maybe it's managing their involvement experience with their class or their job with their classes. So helping them really prioritize and think through that. As far as students' experiences once they meet with a coach, this is some of our survey feedback we've received. Students are feeling welcomed. They're using these skills. They agree that they were able to create that action plan to help them perform their best. And they're rating us at a really high level. And so the opportunity to meet with a coach, again, is through Advise and Assist. A student can schedule as early as today if they would like. We go through the last day of class every semester. So they could start now and then meet throughout the term. And coaching is one of our services we offer in the summer as well. So if you know your students thinking about summer, meeting with a coach throughout the year is an option for them. So that shifts us towards, we always call coaching kind of our student support program, because that program, coaching, is really focused on helping your student navigate campus, learn about their network of success on campus, and who can help them, who are all those people, learning more about those resources, and then learning how to perform their best based on skills and strategies. However, coaches do not know course content. So when your student says, I'm really struggling in my biology class, I don't understand biology, there's kind of this two-prong opportunity as a family member to say, walk me through the challenges you're experiencing in biology. They might say, the professor talks really quickly and I can't keep up with the notes. Okay, that sounds like an academic coaching referral opportunity. But if they say there's this concept in class where this thing and this definition and this concept, and I don't get it, I don't understand how it works, and I can't figure it out, that might be more focused on the content of the course. And that's where our tutoring offerings can be helpful, as well as supplemental instruction. And I'll talk through both of those right now. So again, I was that student. I called home and said, oh, I don't understand this class. I'm stressed out. I don't understand. And so I want to offer that language to you of like, walk me through what's not making sense. Because if it's more skill development related or time management, spending time on the task, that's going to be coaching. And then right now we're going to jump through the course support. So actual content in the course. This might be a better referral. So peer tutoring is the opportunity to meet one-on-one with a student at Auburn University who successfully completed the course already. We have a long list of course offerings on our website. And so on that landing page for study partners, you can see we're offering courses in a lot of the sciences. We've got psychology and history and econ and all sorts of different courses. So check out our list and see if there's some connections from what you know. Encourage your student to do that as well. If there is an overlap in their schedule and our courses, they can absolutely go ahead and start scheduling with tutoring. We launch not this Monday, which is a holiday, but on the 26th, that will be our first day. 26th will be our first day launching peer tutoring. And so students can go ahead and schedule now. We've got the schedule posted and they can jump in on that Monday. In addition to Advise and Assist, we offer what we call an on-demand request. And so students can submit through NAC, K-N-A-C-K. They can submit through NAC their interest in having help in a course. So they can simply say, I'm in Biology 1010 and I want help with that course. And it will contact all of our Biology 1010 tutors. They'll be able to message the student back and find a time that's mutually available for the student and for the tutor. So that's an on-demand, whereas Advise and Assist, they're able to log in, look at a schedule, and pick from the schedule. I want to meet next week on Thursday with this person. So those are two different ways they can connect with us. And you see this list here, the different courses that we offer. Once you get on our website, you'll see the number level of that course. So we don't offer tutoring for all accounting, but on our website, we'll list which accounting courses as an example. Students are having great experiences here too. We asked students who attended, which I pulled some visit data. I want to offer some context there. So going to tutoring, we offer about 50 courses a semester of support. And we had nearly 5,000 visits last year by 1,300 students. So that's about the size of our tutoring program. So we had 1,300 individual students who came and met about 5,000 times this past year. And of those students, they were telling us that the most beneficial part of tutoring was the opportunity to practice problems with someone who's already successfully completed the course. The opportunity to break down some of the content in class into those step-by-step levels, especially with math in particular, to help understand each step better. And then the opportunity to ask questions. Our peers are really approachable. This is someone your student's going to feel comfortable talking to, and they're meeting one-on-one. And so the risk of asking a question in class, maybe with 20 people or 200 people, feels a little more intimidating than asking a question one-on-one with a tutor. So these are some of the things students talked about. I love number 7, which is confidence. I love to see a student walking away just feeling a little more confident. And it's not only that they understood the content better, it's that they know that there is some challenge in this work and they're up to the task. And I think when a student walks away and knows that it's normal to struggle with this concept, you're not alone, and this person has helped me, that can help build your students' confidence in ways that we really like to see. And then our program I mentioned just a minute ago that's also related to the course content is supplemental instruction. So again, we have those courses offered or published on our website. Your student will have to log in for that. It's because we put the room that they're located, and we don't want to put that on the open internet. And so we offer a kind of block to get into AU Involve and see the full schedule with all the details. But your student's able to log in and see. And these are twice weekly active review sessions led by a peer leader. These are students who've made an A or a B in that course. They've done well, and they want to help their peers do the same. We hosted 20,000 visits to SI last year, 20,000 visits by 5,000 individual students. As far as the percentage of population, others will be better at this than me, but we're getting really close to that. 20% of our undergraduate student population comes to SI. So about 1 in 5, your student would be in good company to be attending SI sessions. What we do is we survey the students at the start of the semester and ask when they would want their session hosted. So something you can remind your student at the start of every semester is if they're in a class that we have SI for, number one, we picked that course because we know it's historically rigorous. We call them historically rigorous courses. And these are courses that a lot of students might withdraw from on average. They might earn an F or a D on average at higher rates than most courses on campus. So we're picking a course that we know is challenging. So if your student has an SI leader, that's a signal, hey, this is a rigorous course. We want to make sure you have taken advantage of all the resources and are prepared to spend a lot of time on this course because it's one of the more rigorous ones on campus. With that, we offer these twice weekly review sessions, and they're active. The student leader is not reteaching the content. Instead, they're facilitating activities using active learning strategies to get the class to remember the content from the lecture space and use it in different ways. So they're going to gamify a lot of this learning and make it interesting and fun along the way. And so that's what those spaces can look like. Depending on your student's SI session, it could be as small as 3 or 4 people. But for example, we have classes where 150 students are coming to SI together. They're getting in small groups, they're doing practice problems, they're exploring the content more deeply together. This kind of connects with what I was sharing. So our 3, we call them the legs on the chair, the stool, a stool with 3 legs, is content mastery. So really helping your student not just know the content, but really understand it, get to some higher levels of learning with their understanding. Then we're working with them to think about skill integration. So coming up with ways that they can better study and prepare on their own. You might brainstorm or crowdsource those ideas in an SI session that you're then applying outside of SI. And then peer connections. This is a chance to connect with other people in your class more deeply. We hear from students that they create friendships through SI and even have their own spin-off study groups because of SI. And so it's an opportunity to meet other people who are also in this course. And we try to get everyone to come to SI, but what we notice is a lot of our highest achieving students are showing up. So it's also a chance to connect and surround yourself with other students who are spending time studying, spending time doing their best. So really being role models to each other on how to study and perform their best in classes. These are some of our end of semester outcomes that we notice. So what this table on the left-hand side is showing is spring semesters for the past 5 years, and then the average letter grade earned in that course alone. So we're not looking at all of the students' GPA, we're just looking at that course. If I make an A, that's a 4. If I make a B, that's a 3. If I make a C, that's a 2. If I make a D, that's a 1. And so you're looking at the averages here of everyone in that class. If they never came to SI and they were in the same course, and then to the right, if they came to 10 or more sessions for SI and what their grade was. So on average, for example, this past spring 2025, a year ago, on average, students who came to SI at least 10 times in a semester are earning like a B, maybe an A or a B plus. They're in that B to A range on average. Students who did not are more in that C to B average. And that's what we notice across the board. It's usually a half letter grade on average difference to come to SI versus those who don't. So what obviously for any social scientist in the room, you're like, well, that's not causation. And you're right, it's not causation. But I think it paints a good story that explains that SI is a habit for students who are performing well at Auburn. This is a habit they've included as a part of their overall study plan. And it's a good way to spend time on task. If you're going to spend the time studying, this might be one space to do that work with others. Similar to tutoring, we asked students like, what's most helpful? And so you can see the top 5 things that they told us. But the opportunity to gain access to materials the SI leaders creating, those are more like summary handouts from the lecture, more opportunities to think about a certain dilemma or problem with everyone, practice problems, things like that. So the SI leaders creating those things and using them in the session. Approachability, I can ask questions here. It's not scary. That's a huge one. Participating in those activities overall. It's interesting. It gets your brain to think in new and different ways. And then that dedicated time. And I'm like that too. I was in graduate school pretty recently, and having some carved out time every week that I knew I was going to be somewhere to study can really help. And so SI can be one of those spaces of like, I know that every Monday evening I'm going to go to SI. That can be in my weekly schedule. Again, these are twice weekly, so the opportunity to meet ongoing for SI. We have a new program. So Kevin and I were talking a little bit about this right before we opened the floodgates for the webinar, but this is a new program we've launched this past fall as a pilot. It was very successful, so we are continuing it this semester for the second semester. But what we heard from students is there was a desire to build more community with others around studying and around spending time on task. You've heard me say that a lot, but we know one of the best indicators of expertise in something is to spend time on the task. And so we designed accountability groups informed in the need that students shared around just spending a little bit more structured time studying and modeling it in a way that we hope students can then take and use in lots of spaces. Students can sign up using that OBBY link that's on the slide, OBBY/ASAG. And when they get there, they'll see a little menu. They call it a hamburger menu to submit their interest. There's a student interest form right there. But this is a space also led by a peer leader where students meet weekly. There's about a 5-minute introduction to the session. So the first 5 minutes might be focused on a single skill. We have curriculum every week. And so your leader might present on a certain time management strategy, a certain exam review strategy. And so they'll share that content knowledge, but then the rest of the session really is individual study time And knowing that we're all meeting together each week is the accountability of that. So your student can go ahead and express interest as early as today, and we will respond. We'll reply back to them with the details for the semester of when they can meet. They'll tell us when they want to meet, and we'll build an accountability group around their preferences. So that's what we're doing. We're centering their preferences around when to meet. I always want to make sure that family members, students know you can come work in our office, join the team. We have over 100 students who work with us as peer tutors or as SI leaders. We also have front desk employees, although we don't promote it as much because we only hire about 2 or 3 of them compared to 50 or 60 students. But those are the 3 ways. The 2 we promote the most are tutors and SI leaders. But this is a great opportunity for your student to practice their leadership and their helping skills and really gain a lot of knowledge through our training, which is a certified training. We have a nationally certified training for peer tutors and SI leaders that really helps learn those foundational, like soft skills, referral skills, how to create boundaries. Hey, this is what I can help you with. Here's what I can't help you with, but let's get you connected with someone who can. Being a peer leader is going to help teach them a lot of those skills, and these are ways that they could connect with us through that. Our priority deadline is always midterm. So on our academic calendar at the university, it'll say what date the midterm is officially every semester. That's our priority deadline. So if students apply before midterm, they'll be a part of our big pool when we review candidates. So we'll be reaching out after spring break to any students who are interested in working with us for the fall. We'll be hiring for fall 26. Believe it or not, we'll be interviewing for that as early as March. Our website has a lot of resources, and we've created some on-demand connections with students. We realize it might be a little intimidating to just cold call us or stop by for the first time. And so if your student's not really sure they want to come by, or they're not really sure they want to schedule that appointment, we do have some resources online that refer back to our services as a way to try to cultivate some good feelings, some relationship to get them in the door. The great thing is once they get there, I think the hardest part really is getting there. Once they get there, they give us these great responses on their surveys and tell us that they're having a great time. And so the challenge, I think, sometimes is getting them there. And so these are resources that might help make that a little easier for them. They're linked on our homepage now. So you can go to our academic support main website and see those on-demand resources for students. Our most popular one would be how to prepare for finals. We have a recorded workshop on there that students view pretty routinely. I've heard students say that sometimes they just listen to it in the background while they prepare. It's kind of a good motivating thing to listen to, almost like a podcast for them. And then we have some handouts on there as well. The other thing I'll offer, Kevin mentioned a lot of our family members that might be here have first-year students. The technology is really new for a lot of our students. And so those how-to videos could help your student figure out how to best use their Outlook email, best use Box as a way to collaborate with others, maybe on a group project, for example, or how to best organize their Canvas main page, for example. So we have some how-to videos on how to use the technology that might be really new to students, so that they can best utilize those things. So with that, I'll offer, these are different ways you can connect with us. So please consider thinking about us throughout the year. I know that you think about us throughout the year because our number one referral agent to our services are family members and parents. We ask students, how did you hear about us? And they say, my mom, my dad, my grandparent, my sibling who went to Camp War Eagle. That's what they tell us. And so thank you for being someone that thinks about our services. And when your student brings a dilemma or a challenge forward, thank you so much for mentioning us among probably a list of resources. But we're very grateful that we made the list, and thank you for continuing to refer to us. Um, Beyond that, we will post on social media and have these resources available year round. I think one of our strengths as an office is we've been really consistent. These are services our students expect, they look forward to. There's a rhythm about them. They know that they usually start about 2 weeks after the first day of class. They know that they're done on the last day of class. There's absolutely a rhythm here we've developed over time. So just know that we are someone in your student's corner. We're excited to support their success. We're excited to serve them directly, but also help connect them. One of our priorities as a team is making sure students know the full network that they have access to by being a student here. You're never going to have, for example, a coach on our team make it seem like they're the only one that can help your student. There's probably 15 people on this campus right now who are available to help your student, whether it's build skills, build new knowledge, connect on an administrative need. There's a lot of support. And so with that, I think that covers the big things. I want to maybe open the floor to questions you have, maybe open the floor to what's connecting for you, but what's missing. I'd love to see if I can help you connect dots here. And with that, I'll yield to Kevin as well. Thank y'all.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Excellent presentation. And I know a few people have asked, and after the presentation today, I will send out an email to everyone who signed up with a recording of this webinar. If you'd like to share it with your students, or if you had to miss part of it today and you'd like to review certain aspects, we'll absolutely send that out along with the survey so you can let us know what you thought. But we did want to open this up to any questions that you might have for Jamie. We've got plenty of time. You can put them in the chat if you'd like, and I'm happy to read them off to Jamie. All right, Jamie, first question, is there a spring info session for the accountability groups?
I don't believe there is. I don't believe there is. I saw that on the slide and I was like, oh, outdated. And so, no, but what I can show you is I can pull up on our website. I'll give a quick little tour of where folks can go to express interest, and we can get them assigned to start that last full week of this month. So we can get them on there. I'm going to share here. So this is our homepage of academic support, and you can click to get to programs, and it'll immediately pull you to our available resources that we just talked about. Going slow because I don't want to make anyone dizzy. Under accountability groups, this is the information about the resource, but here's that hamburger menu I mentioned. If you select that for accountability groups, here is the student interest form. So if your student, I'll put this in the chat for us. If your student fills this out with their preferences of dates, it'll go to our colleagues to then assign them a group based on their preferences. And so I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to throw that direct link in the chat. So yeah, I apologize there's not one this semester, but we are excited about it. It is happening, and we would love to see your student express interest with that link.
Thanks for sharing that link, Jamie. Next question. Are you finding that having textbooks is helpful, or are they okay with the ebooks only?
Ooh, this is a great question. So I do think it really depends on preference that your students have. I know in my case, I prefer tactile, but I'm from a different time and space. We have plenty of students on this campus who really enjoy the ebooks. What I would encourage your student to do is perhaps meet with a coach or talk to their friends and instructor even on how to best use that textbook. A lot of times there's highlighting resources or ways you can create notes within the text. There's ways to really use an online textbook well. versus only just reading. And so I think the benefits of an ebook really exist when you know how to use the technology well. That's where the highlights, post-its, you can synthesize different notes and make your own notes in the corner with an ebook. So there's a lot of ways to interact with your text using an ebook. And so I would encourage them to maybe consult with their instructor during their office hours, or even get with an academic coach to brainstorm different ways to best use their ebook.
Mhm.
I'll go ahead and assert too, Kevin, the question from Scott about accountability groups. It is a mix of students. It is a mix of students. It's prioritizing when they're available, and then also their motivations for like being a part of a group. What are they looking for from that group? We try to see if we can find some commonality there. But no, absolutely a mix of students.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. We did have an additional question about academic recovery. Would you be open to just talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll actually get to our webpage about that as well. So, academic recovery is kind of our own language around the early alert grades, which I can definitely talk about. That could be really helpful in this space. And then our Study Smart program as well, which is for students who have been suspended from the university. So, I'll open both and kind of walk through the value of both of these resources. Let's start with early alert grades. So early alert grades is a semesterly process. It is not every grade at the university. However, we focus on courses that most first or second year students take at the university. And this semester, we have asked faculty and instructors of record to submit their grade that a student has earned up to that point by February 19th. That's the deadline this year that we've asked faculty to submit a preliminary grade. What I tell students every year is an early alert grade is not on your transcript. It's nowhere, but it's giving you a pulse of what you're making in the course right now. So if the semester ended today, what letter grade do you have in this course? And so early alert grades can help you get a sense of where you stand in the course. Not every class will have this. And so some tools to figure out what grade you have in a course could include your Canvas page, looking at the grade book on a Canvas page. And then at minimum, always looking at your course syllabus to see on the syllabus what the grade breakdown of every assignment is, and getting a sense that way of kind of a hand calculation of like, okay, I made an 88 on this, I made a 72 on this, but I made a 93 on this, and they're weighted at different levels. And so your syllabus will break that down for every course. They're required to. Most faculty include it in the grade book on Canvas. And then as an additional layer, we offer an early alert grade where your instructor has submitted that grade saying, if the course ended today, this is what it would look like. This is a great way to prompt some action. So you see here on the screen, go talk to your advisor to talk through, are you in the right major? Is this the right course that you need? Was there a prerequisite that you didn't meet before you got in this course? Walk us through what challenges you're having. And then using our services could be a great next step as well. I think an academic coach in particular could be great to triage there. So that's early alert grades. It's semesterly, focused on first and second year students, just offering an indicator of how they're doing. And then Study Smart, I'll offer very briefly, is for students on suspension. So if I've been academically suspended from the university due to grades, I've usually at that point earned a cumulative GPA of less than a 2.0, although there's an official chart on the registrar's website of what grade based on how many hours I've taken. And so using that, I might be suspended. I'll get notified that I've been suspended from Auburn. The semester prior to that, I'll be told I'm on probation. So you'll be on probation first. That's your opportunity to get out of probation using resources, Advising is a good resource, coaching is a good resource. And then if I still don't perform well that second semester, that's when I may experience suspension. And at that point, this program is available to help you kind of reset, recenter, make sure that this is the path you want, and then kind of recalibrate for entering the university again, re-entering college with us. And so that program is available for students who've been suspended on our campus, and we're really happy to offer that to them. Got some topics right there. These topics are embedded in our coaching experience as well. So a lot of times the student could meet with a coach earlier to perhaps even avoid being on suspension. We want to help avoid that. But if you were on suspension, you would be able to have these types of conversations with us to figure out, like, what do I want to do really? Is this what I want? And if so, what skills do I need, or what adjustments should I make so that I can have a different outcome in the future? Great questions. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, we do not have any additional questions at the moment. Oh, here we do. We do have one more. Can you share info on the grade adjustment policy or the GAP program?
That is a little out of my orbit day to day. What I'll offer is that we do have a policy on campus called GAP, the grade adjustment policy. I can offer that's going to be within the registrar's realm, as well as your student's assigned academic advisor. And there is a policy online. So I'm going to see if I can pull the
I've
policy.
got that up, Jamie. I'm going to put that in the
Oh,
chat.
thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you to review that policy if that's of interest to you. Essentially, what it's offering is an opportunity to repeat a course, which you would have to do anyway in order to continue your degree progress. But if I made an F in a course, for example, I would have an opportunity to take that same course again, get a different outcome this time, and then use a gap to then adjust my GPA to where the F isn't weighing my GPA down. It's still on my transcript, doesn't remove it, but it's not being calculated anymore as a part of my GPA. They're using only the new letter grade for my GPA.
Yeah.
So I hope that's helpful. I think when students are navigating warning, probation, they might explore those options, and your student's assigned academic advisor would be their number one point of contact for those questions.
Yeah. And I'll add just a little bit of that for Jamie. If a student does use the gap policy for a class, it may be a better situation for some students than others, and that's why reaching out to your advisor or your student's advisor is the most important thing. For example, if your student's trying to go to nursing school or medical school, having the GPA adjusted might be helpful, but it might still be a problem to have the F on the transcript. So really, every situation is a little bit different. So I just want to reiterate what Jamie just said. Academic advisor really is going to be your student's best advocate and best resource for questions about the GAP policy. The next question is a D letter grade considered passing at Auburn?
So this is another great kind of advisor
Yeah.
expertise moment. So I won't pretend that I'm an expert on it at all. What I will offer is that depending on what course it is, your student may be able to earn a D in that course and still continue with their degree progress in that major. But there are scenarios where a student must make a certain letter grade to get to the next course. So, for example, if I had a prerequisite, let's say I'm going from one accounting level to the next accounting course, there may be a scenario where I actually have to make a C in order to then get to the next course. And so those are all things that are very nuanced and something that your student's advisor can walk through directly. F at the end of the day is by name fail. And so the question that you're asking, Stacy, like, yeah, I think D technically, but sometimes it won't allow you to do what you're trying to do as a student. So that's the conversation to have with your advisor.
Yeah. And I don't know the answer to this question either, but I will say I've been an advisor at a couple of other schools, and it was always case dependent. Like you could pass some classes with a D, but not others. So, but that is once again one of those things that's just going to be really situational for your student.
Yeah, absolutely. And then your GPA kind of goes hand in hand there. So continue to ask questions about a grade in a specific course, but also consider GPA total average expectations. Those are two things to kind of hold together. I'm seeing a note about if I recommend specific services for students who use the GAP program. So, I would say it really would depend on your student situation, but my number one referral is academic coaching. Meet with a coach. The student can talk one on one about these are the challenges I've had. These are the things I do really well that I feel strong in. What can I do now? And a coach can help navigate and connect those resources. Coaching in and of itself could be very helpful for a student. It's going to help them navigate different like skill development, build new habits and strategies that might help them perform better. For example, if they use GAP, maybe they made a D or an F, like it's going to help them do better. Um, or think be reflective. We call it metacognition, but it's a fancy word for saying I made a mistake, something happened. Let me reflect on what happened and make changes going forward. And so we as coaches can help your student pause and reflect on like what went well, what didn't, and how do you want to adjust going forward. And so I think coaching could be great there. And then a coach will help them connect to all the other resources. So they can sit with their schedule and say, okay, we have tutoring for that. We have SI for that. We have, like, have you heard of the Miller Writing Center, for example, and get them connected. So I would say coaching would be the first, simply because we're good at triaging from there. And then a student always wants to keep their assigned academic advisor close by, not just to talk about, and like if my colleague Ruthie Spears, Dr. Spears, if she was here, she would offer this too and kind of echo this, I think, is advisors are not just folks to talk about what courses do I take. Advisors are people you could talk through to say, what opportunities might I have in this major as I'm continuing in the college to get involved within my academics? Like, what opportunities exist that could be available? And so, your advisor is a really, I call them cultural navigators. They just know how to navigate this campus. They know Auburn, and they can help your student think through strategy of how they want to spend their 4 years at Auburn, maybe 5, maybe 6, but how do they want to spend their time at Auburn in ways that really support their growth and their goals? So I would say coaching and advising, which is a very long answer. So thanks for sitting through that one.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, let's give a virtual round of applause for Jamie for taking the time to speak to us all today. As I mentioned, I will send out a recording of the webinar to everybody who registered. Feel free to share this with any other parents that you think might find this helpful. Feel free to share this with your students. We do want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to learn about the great resources that Jamie and her team provide. We'll also add a survey in there just to ensure that you can give feedback and we can always improve with our sessions that we host. Our next session is going to be on January the 28th. We'll have a couple of folks over from our HR team to talk about student employment opportunities. So you can register for that session and all of our remaining sessions on our website under the Family Connection Hour session. So once again, thank you everybody, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you so much.